He then said, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long on the
this
earth.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first commandment with promise. So honoring our parents extends our life. But one of the statistics, when we look at the financial aspect of it, said that it cost about $249,000 to raise a child up to the age of 18. And some of you thought that you weren't millionaires. Yes, it is quite a
Hot topic.
And I believe that we're going to have some really good insight. And more than anything, I believe the Lord is going to reveal we're going to break up some strongholds and religious thinking and bring about some truth. And it's like, okay, God, I've given you my quota, my quota of time for the week. I am about my own business. See you later. See you next week.
Is Christianity a mere set of religious rituals and doctrines, or does it encompass something deeper? A kingdom with its own laws, principles, values, culture, and dynamic. I'm thrilled to have you join us today as we dive into a topic that sparks curiosity and contemplation. Christianity, a religion or a kingdom? Hi, welcome back to Ask Wifey. I'm Jamin, and as always, this is my wife, Nicole, better known as Wifey. Say hi, Wifey.
Hi, Wifey. Hi, everyone, and welcome again. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We've got a meaningful and, dare I say, somewhat challenging topic to dig into today.
Yep, that's right. Today we're breaking down a subject that many of us find complex: supporting our parents as they age. Not only financially, but emotionally, spiritually as well. This is an important and sometimes uncomfortable topic. Wifey, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
How do we honor them? How do we handle the financial sides? It's a mix of culture, expectation, biblical teaching, and practical needs.
Yes, and it's an honor-based journey. We'll talk about what honoring parents means as they age, balancing financial contributions, and even finding peace in this evolving relationship.
So, like I always start, I'm going to ask you, Wifey, how do we honor our parents as being adults? Now that we're adults.
Yeah. And when we're young, we honor our parents, and honoring our parents looks to us like obedience. We do what they say. We make sure we follow their instructions to the T. We don't always follow them to the T. But there's a certain level of fear and, if I may use the word, reverence that we esteem to our parents as young people. And fear and dread, and that's not always a bad thing. But as we grow into adults, that honor shifts, or that view of our parents shifts. It's more about respect and appreciation. And as our parents age, that honor matures yet again. It's less about following their every word and more about showing respect and care in new ways.
Absolutely. Proverbs 28 and 22 tells us that when our mothers are old, we should show them appreciation. And that's for both our parents.
Yes.
Really, they invested a lot into our lives, from money to time to emotional support. The list we can do when it comes down to knowledge, you have to be able to appreciate them in every effort.
Yes. And when we think about honor, when God gave the commandments to the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the third one,
Mm-hmm.
after the third commandment, after our relationship and our attitude towards God was established,
Uh-huh.
he then said, "Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long on the
this
earth."
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first commandment with promise.
Mm.
So honoring our parents extends our life. But one of the statistics, when we look at the financial aspect of it, said that it cost about $249,000 to raise a child up to the age of 18. And some of you thought that you weren't millionaires. That's not even counting college or anything after. Just think your parents could have spent that money on themselves, gone on the vacations they've been dreaming about, driven the car of their dreams, or bought the house that they want. But no, what did they do?
Let me tell you about that statistic. When I was researching that, I only found up to 2021.
So that doesn't
that's
even
3 years old. So that means it's way more than 249,000. Also, in my case, where my mom raised 6 plus 2, I call them 8.
That's why I said many of our parents were millionaires.
Yes, sir.
Many times over, because
if it costs that much.
Yes.
Oh man.
And so you look at what they did, and but they chose to invest their time, their money, their dreams in us.
Yeah, because sometimes we overlook honoring our parents.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the sacrifice they made, whether it was for our basic needs or our dreams and our aspirations. And so one of the things I want people to get from this podcast today, Wifey, is that when you look at what our parents poured into us, it is, when we look at that, we have to think, we should not have to think twice about taking care of them when they start to age and they can't do it for themselves.
Yeah, I think we grow up and move on, and for many people they don't look back, and that in itself, and it depends on the culture that you grow up.
And we're going to talk about that because now when it comes down to honoring our parents, it's not just about words. There's a financial aspect too, and that can be complicated. In our Western culture, we're not always taught to care for the elderly the way some of our cultures, like some other cultures, do.
Yeah.
Okay? And we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. In many cultures, the elderly are the most respected and honored people in the room. When they walk in the room, you stand up.
Yep.
And in some cultures, they kneel and bow.
Yep.
And you wonder, for the Western culture, they would be like, what's that all about? And even in the Christian culture, they'll be like, you shouldn't be giving that kind of respect to anyone other than God. But when you understand that our parents were God to us,
Yep.
and he established them in that position, then you will understand why, yes, they are due that honor and that respect. And again, just go back to the commandment. God said that your days may be long. So he is saying, in other words, you dishonor them, I can cut your life. And what you are doing, I think that when you look at that disrespect and dishonor of our parents and those in authority is the same disrespect and dishonor that God felt when Adam and Eve disobeyed him. And he said, the day that you do that, you will surely die. There's a level of honor and respect and fear
Mm-hmm.
that is due somebody that has invested their life to ensure that your life flourishes. And not just that, the source of where you came from.
Mm-hmm.
When you disrespect the source of where you came from,
Mm-hmm.
that's foolish. You don't know. It's like, okay, I you don't want to be connected to me. I cut you off.
And I'm always surprised because in North America, we, or what they call the West, we have put a real damper on what we should be doing for our parents. When you look at other cultures like the Asians or the Indians or the Africans,
Yes.
they don't allow they don't push their parents in the home. The only way you would see that is if you see they rock bottom and they can't afford, or the parents are they can't control them because of their sickness.
And most of the
And most of the time,
you don't find that there.
no.
In those cultures, the family network and the community is entrenched and established. It again, you would have to have been. It would have to be where everybody got cut off.
Yeah.
For that to be established, and
You know the
sense
Bible.
of duty,
Go ahead.
the sense of duty to care for them financially, even if there's if it's a sacrifice, is there. But in Western culture, the focus often shifts to the younger generations, and sometimes older family members are overlooked.
Yep. And the Bible, however, is very clear on this. In 1 Timothy 5, it says, honor the widows who are truly widows. And it goes on to emphasize that if a widow has children or grandchildren, it's their responsibility to care for her. It's desirable as a good and acceptable thing in God's eye.
Yes. And this is more than just a suggestion, it's a command to help ensure our parents don't fall into hardships. It's a way of showing honor, and we are responsible for the well being of our aged parents. And that doesn't only mean financially, it can be as simple as showing up, staying in touch, helping around the house, or inviting them to family events.
Exactly. It's a whole support system. If siblings are in the picture, this is where cooperation comes in. Everyone can contribute in their way, whether financially, physically, or emotionally. It's about showing up and making sure they don't feel isolated or forgotten.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important thing. When we look at some practical ways that you can bring support to your parents, one of the things we look at is supporting our parents as they age. It doesn't mean you have to become a financial burden, or you're the financial powerhouse. And in some cultures, unfortunately, it has been taken advantage of. And you see where the seniors in the household and the community have gotten to the point where they tax the younger so much that they cannot even survive. And that's not.
And we're going to have a separate podcast when it comes down to how do you prepare for retirement.
Okay.
We're going to cover all of that in
because
there.
a lot of that plays a part in it. But and it's doing what you can do. It's more about consistent, manageable ways to help. For instance, maybe you cover one bill, or maybe you take turns with siblings to help with the groceries, or everyone takes a weekend or a week to carry their parents to the store, bring them over for the weekend. But especially in a family, as best you can, everyone should do what they can do, and to make the load lighter. Because when you think about it, our parents didn't share the responsibility of raising us with anybody.
No.
In most cases.
No.
And of course, there were times that you had aunties and uncles that
Right.
they had pitched in a day or two here. But on an average, they took care of it all.
Yes, and here's another way. If your parents need extra help with living arrangements or health care, you can look into services, even if it means pitching in to make it happen. Sometimes it's just about making sure they're in a comfortable, safe environment. Because all of them are independent. They don't really need you there, but they need to know you are there if they need you.
And like you said, when they need stuff done, especially when things become out of their reach to handle,
Right.
or we are a little bit more astute and we can take care of things, that's when you pitch in and you take care of it. And you manage with what they allow you to manage.
Right.
You don't want to take over because,
Right.
again, like you said, our parents, they ran our lives. And for many of them, they're independent. But there is a point in their lives when they're not able to take care of themselves as they did. And even when some of them, you can't tell them. And I found it in a gracious way.
Yeah.
In a loving way.
Yeah.
In a respectful, honorable way.
Yeah.
You got to use strategy to get done what you need to get done. Yeah.
I want to emphasize something. If your parents are still financially stable and independent, honor them by respecting that. But also, if they need support, be proactive. Don't let pride or old family drama, we call it, get in the way.
Yeah.
Find a way to help without overstepping.
Yes.
That's very important.
And that is, one of the things that is really honorable, when you talk about family drama, it's when we as the siblings, we as the children, when we get along.
Yeah.
For our parents in their old age, they reared us to be a family.
Right.
To love one another. And one of the things that I've found is that there's always someone hanging on to some issue. And there's
some old past, something they dig up from way back when.
Yeah, causing contention. And then anytime you have a family event or a family gathering, they walking around with this chip on their shoulder and this elephant they dragging around. This old elephant.
Hey, it's so old they don't even remember what it is in detail.
Those are the kind of things, and the contention that grieves. That's dishonorable to our parents. So that's one area too that we can better honor our parents. And sometimes for us, it's also okay to set boundaries, especially if the family dynamics is challenging. Honoring your parents doesn't mean compromising your financial stability to the point of neglecting your own family or well-being. The goal is balance.
God calls us to honor our parents, but we're not expected to neglect our responsibility. 1 Timothy 5 makes it clear that honoring our parents is about prioritizing family, but it does not mean ignoring our obligations and making unwise financial choices. Because that's what I want a lot of people to understand about what we're talking about today. We're not talking to take your eye off of your responsibility. In my case, it will be my wife and our family to run and go and take care of mommy. Okay? But there should be a compromise somewhere in there where you can help or you can do your part. A lot of times, you just need to make sure that you're doing your part.
Yeah.
For the whole situation itself.
Yes. And that whole dynamic of doing your part and making sure you balance out the dynamics between your responsibility and your priority to your immediate family versus your priority or your care and assistance to your parents and your extended family, that is something that God expects us to seek wisdom on. because he holds us accountable for our immediate family.
Yes.
And there's finding that balance, but he expects us to include. We have to make sure that's a part of what we do when we can do however we can do it.
Okay.
So yes, that's something that is very important. And sometimes support might be just connecting them with to resources or programs available to them. As elderly. In many of our countries, the government provides
Support.
Many, because they have worked and contributed to the economy, to the society that they were in. There are pension plans available. You want to make sure that theirs is intact. They're getting what they should be getting. Any initiatives, any grants, anything available to them. As a child, as a daughter, it would be unwise for me to be looking out for them in that aspect.
To start to wrap this up and bring this home, today's discussion is a reminder that honoring our parents as they age is about respect, time, and when possible, financial support. But it's also about wisdom and balance. We honor them by showing appreciation, providing practical help, and ensuring they're cared for. And I think, again, I want to emphasize here, if I met your parents, will they say to me, I know the last time I see my son, or I know the last time I see my daughter? If your parent is in that case, you need to find them.
And honestly, that's a good point, hon, because as our parents age, we have issues that happen in families. We feel like we were mistreated. We weren't the favorite. They did this, they did the next thing. But one of the things I came to realize with my parents, they did the best with what they had.
And what they knew.
And what they knew. And especially for us in the kingdom, God says, you should forgive.
What?
And especially your parents. For many of you, the avenues and the doors of opportunity and blessings are only pried open because you still need to go back and make right situations with your parents. And you may say, but they did this and they did that. And I've been there and I had that cry, and God said, if you want to receive my blessing, you need to honor the people that I put over you. He didn't say they had to be perfect. He didn't say they had to do everything right. He didn't say they would do everything right. He said to honor them. Honor the position that they held, that God placed them in your life. And with that, forgive and establish that relationship.
One of the things we say at the beginning of this podcast is we bring you kingdom principles for kingdom living.
Yeah.
And in order for me to do that, I have to speak to those individuals who have parents, maybe fathers or mothers they don't see or don't know like that or have disappeared out of their lives. I need them to know that you as a believer still have a responsibility as a child to honor them.
Yes. And to that relationship is important to your foundation. And so if you are building your life and that foundation, that relationship is cracked, your foundation is cracked. It doesn't matter what they did. It doesn't matter what you did. And it doesn't matter whether they are believers or not. Your life's foundation was built on that relationship. And you have a responsibility to take that before God. And even if you do your part and they don't, that's on them. And let God deal with that. But He will honor you in you establishing and making your effort to cement out and fill the cracks as best as you can by His grace in that relationship. And I remember when I had to do that.
One of the things because we're wrapping this up, but one of the things I want us to remember something, that our kids are watching us.
Yes.
Do you know, I can't help but to take care and honor my parents. You know why? I saw my father honor his parent, honor his mother.
Yeah.
I saw my mother honor her mother and her father.
Same here.
So if for any reason you're thinking he wasn't there or she wasn't there, so I ain't gonna do it, remember, your kids are watching.
Yes. And again, it doesn't matter if you had issues.
Yep.
We all have issues. You have issues with your boss, but don't you go back to work and grin with him and make...
Whoa.
Although that should be honest. But the thing about it is the relationships that we have with other people outside of our family tend to be... We
fight to keep them.
We fight to keep them. But we will...
One of the most important relationships.
We will cut this one off and cuss this one out, and we hold anger and animosity over the people that God determined that would be your parents and your siblings and your foundation. And so we need to go back to and sit down and really recollect and examine our relationship. Are we honoring our parents? Are we treating them with a level of fear and respect? Are we grateful to them for whatever they did?
And before we go, remember that when we honor our parents, we're following a biblical principle. We're showing the love of God in a way that honors them and reflects his heart. So think about what that looks like, and you and your family, for you and your family.
Thank you for joining us on Ask Wifey today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends and your family and your parents. And leave a comment down below. We love to hear how you honor your parents and thoughts on this topic and what you would do.
See you next time on Ask Wifey. Until then, remember,
the kingdom of God is here.